Hi, how are you? John Kavakis here for another episode of my take for Form 143 and for the diecast zone. I've been at the beach for the last couple of weeks, and generally we get about 3 weeks vacation a year, and we kind of go off the grid during that time and go quiet. I'll check my email and messages in the morning, maybe again in the late afternoon, but for those of you that are on 143 or in the lounge, you know that I haven't been posting very much. And so it would take something very special to get me to come out of that isolation. And I've got something very special to share with you today. It's the unveiling of a brand new model, never before seen, from Conquest. And so I'm excited to come in here and set up a little makeshift studio and do a box opening with you on this new model. So to set the stage, let's talk about what if. We're model guys, we're car guys. We love to do what if. What if Packard didn't fold? What if they didn't unite with Studebaker? What if Cadillac made a station wagon? What if Thunderbird continued on with the 2-seater instead of going to a 4-seater? We just love what ifs. And there are a couple guys on the internet that do artist renderings of what if, and they do a really great job of it. And they're dream cars, they're fantasy cars, they're cars that never were, but that we wish might have been. So our model today is a what if, and it's a model of a what if Edsel. Now let me talk to you about Edsel for a little bit, because that's a pretty fascinating story. Edsel was a new model line to be introduced in 1957, this 1958 model. Ford had done some market research in the early 50s and had determined, rightfully so, that the middle-priced market was where all of the action was going to be. So they wanted to come out with a new car that sat somewhere in between Ford and Mercury, and it was going to be Continental, was going to be the top of the line, ultra luxury offerings. The Lincoln then would be competitive with Cadillac, Mercury, and then Edsel, and then Ford. And so as they started production for the car, they had to price it there was some confusion there. There were 8 models for the first year. Half of them were made on the Mercury chassis, which was larger than the Ford chassis. The other half were made on the Ford chassis, and Edsels were made in the Ford plants. The smaller ones were in the Ford plants. The larger ones were in the Mercury plants. And that was kind of the first indication that there might be some problems. But the big problem that they ran into was immediately after the introduction of the car in September of 1957, there was a recession in the United States, and it was a pretty harsh recession. And it hit the mid-price cars harder than it did everybody else. So Edsel was exactly the wrong car at the wrong time. The styling was a little controversial. People made fun of the grille in the front, but I think in looking back on it, really not that bad at all. Matter of fact, very distinctive from the rest of the offerings in 1958. But Edsel had some formidable competition. I mean, Chrysler started the forward look in 1955, and it was really taking off by 57 and 58, big fins, and everybody was moving towards this rocket-inspired styling, and Edsel did not have that. There were some innovations that Edsel offered, some of them good, some of them not so good. They had the teletouch gear shift. Buttons were in the hub of the steering wheel. It was a great idea. There were some reliability problems with that due to where they routed the wiring, which was close to the exhaust manifold, and people weren't used to having the gear shift on the steering hub, and sometimes people would mistakenly hit the steering hub, and that would cause problems. But they had self-lubricating chassis, one of the first ones to have that, self-adjusting brakes, the first one to have that. So some of the standards they set were adopted by the rest of the industry and did very well. So 58 was a rough year. They had 1,600 dealers, probably could have been more. The introduction was, the build up to it was just tremendous, and not everybody appreciated the product that they saw after the build up that had been made, the big fuss that was made over it. So 58 was kind of rough. 59, they watered down the styling a little bit. I think made it look a little bit better. And, the interiors were beautiful. The trim was great. It was somewhat subdued compared to everything else, but color selections were fabulous. But by the end of 59, it was all over. And when they issued the 60 model, it was just kind of some different trim put on a Ford, and the writing was on the wall. There was some internal strife at Ford. Robert McNamara had taken over as CFO, and he didn't care very much for the idea of the Continental being a separate brand, was never in favor of the Edsel brand, wanted to consolidate Continental, Lincoln, Mercury, and Edsel into one division and Ford into another division. Ford was kind of his baby that he wanted to take care of. And so McNamara, when he saw the opportunity to pull the plug, he pulled the plug, and that was it. 3 years, 161,000 copies were made. And it's one of the great ironies of the automobile business, in particular in the collector end of it, is that the cars that weren't popular when they were first made become more collectible, primarily due to their rarity. But I believe that the Edsel, the 58, 59 model in particular, are excellent representatives of the styling. And so what we have here today is a what if. What if Edsel succeeded? What if they, and primarily, what if Edsel had a halo car that they could hang their reputation on, something that people would aspire to, something that not everybody would buy, but a vehicle that when people bought their four-door Edsel station wagon, you can imagine themselves driving around in something maybe a bit more luxurious, maybe a bit more distinctive. And that's what we have here today. Conquest has issued the Edsel Roadster. It's a beautiful what-if car. Typical Conquest packaging. The foam is very precisely cut. They've got little pieces of foam to protect the convertible top. There's a packet. It's got mirrors and, a really nice antenna, nice to scale antenna there. That'll look good on the model. And here we have the car. Now, I don't know if you've ever purchased a model from Buzz in person, Buzz Kirkle, at Route 66 model cars, but watching Buzz wrap the models before he puts them in the box for you is like watching an artist do a painting. He takes incredible care, and he wraps them beautifully. I've never been able to duplicate the way he wraps them, but he takes care of his models the same way he takes care of his customers, with tremendous care and with a lot of respect and honor. And here's the model, and again, this is the first time we're looking at it, the Edsel Roadster. I gotta tell you, it's a beautiful model. Typical Conquest finish. It's flawless. The grille is accurate. I've seen a number of manufacturers try to make a miniature of Edsel, and more frequently than not, there's something wrong with the proportions or something wrong with the trim. This is beautiful, and the grille is nicely picked out with decent depth. Lensing is very well done. The headlights look realistic. The side trim, boy, they got that right. It's to scale. The proportions are fantastic. If Edsel had made a Roadster, the smartest thing for them to do would have been to shorten the root wheelbase, keep the big engine in it. They already had a powerful engine. Edsel was very quick for its class. They would have had a great handling, very quick personal luxury car. Long before that segment ever became popular, they could have been trendsetters. And this is what it would have looked like. One of the things that Conquest has done over the recent years has been to kind of up their game on the dashboard. And this dashboard is beautifully picked out. One of the things I can appreciate about this is the steering wheel. And we've all seen the steering wheels on models where they're kind of big, kind of clunky, rest upon the seat. Well, this one is to scale. It's got great emblems in it. And it sits far enough above seat that a 1/43 size person could actually fit underneath it. They picked out neat details. The door handles are separate. inside and out. They've also picked out the anchors for what would be a hardtop, and we've got an example of that too. Conquest is actually making two models, the top-down version, or the top-removed version, and the hardtop version. I'll bring that out in just a second. There's only 30 of each model being made. They're numbers. So if you like what ifs, if you like a really well-represented, really well-constructed model with tremendous fidelity, this is great. Contact Buzz at Route 66. So that's the top removed version, and here's the closed version. Again, it's got all the same detail as the original one. The top is really well done. The trim around the edges of the top is very delicate, very much to scale. They've got the portals in them, and I know the portals were somewhat controversial. Well, why not put them on the Edsel if we're going to do a what-if roadster? And I think for the time, they look fantastic. And I think one thing that the closed version shows us, it kind of shows off how flawless the finish is. It's just beautifully done. So there we are. There's the Edsel what if. Would they have been successful if they had introduced a car like this? Well, we don't know. But it is a beautiful model, and it is something to ponder. Now, these are available from Route 66 models. I'll put a little address down at the bottom of the screen for you to take a look at. But they're only making 30 of each, so if you're interested, you need to contact them right away. Hey, thanks for spending this time with me. I look forward to talking to you again sometime soon.